Welcome, everybody, to Tammy Tuesday, the podcast of life, love, and purpose. We're happy you could join us. I'm thrilled about our guest today. She is a true soul sister and an amazing spirit on this earth. I love her and her strength and her beautiful story that she's going to share with all of you today. Tammy Rodie. Tammy, thank you for being here. We got Tammy squared today.
Tammy squared. Yes, thank you. Thanks for the invite. I am honored.
Oh, good. It's my pleasure, Tammy. And when we met, gosh, when was that? Over a year?
Last May.
It was almost exactly a year, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
So we met at beautiful Katie Kylene's Connecting with Creator class, which was amazing. Yeah. The thing that I loved so much about when I met you there was your sincerity. You are such an honest, beautiful, tender, loving soul. And I just saw that in you immediately. You're humble and kind and open. And it was just really refreshing to be around. And I remember when we sat and talked a little bit, you said something in passing that really struck a chord with me. And part of the reason that you were there, which was to connect more strongly with God and have a deeper relationship, of course, to help guide your own life. And again, the thing you said in passing was, oh, well, I survived a cult. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And later, obviously, it came out and you told me a lot more about that comment. And I was intrigued. And the thing that it struck me the most, Tammy, and I told you this since we've talked, is everything that happened in Colorado City with FLDS has always been a thing. And I had recently been introduced to what happened, and I've been there, and there's so many beautiful things happening there now. But it really drew me to you and your story around your experience with Remnant Fellowship in Brentwood, Tennessee. And I really want you to set the stage for everybody listening, how you got involved in it. Maybe a tiny bit about your background that could have also led you in that direction as well.
Absolutely.
And talk about what happened and your experience and where you are today. That's what I'm hoping this whole message will be about, is your story.
Yes.
So I'll let you start.
All right. Well, thank you. And, basically, when I joined Remnant, I was there 12 years. And it was
12 years. Wow.
Yeah. 07. And I left there in August of 2019.
Wow.
And how I was raised Catholic, baptized Christian when I moved to Arizona.
When were you? When did you move to Arizona?
I moved to Arizona in 1990.
Okay.
And I was baptized I grew up in Kansas.
Okay.
But I moved here from New York because I was flying with TWA. So
that's right.
And then I got furloughed, so I moved to Arizona. My faith has always been strong. I just knew God was everything that I needed. And
were you raised that way? Is that how your parents taught you?
Yes.
Not just religious background.
No.
It was how they taught you.
Yeah, it was. But being raised in the Catholic faith, it was very, regimented. This is what we did. And so, I felt like, I struggled with a lot of health issues. And I had been back in Kansas, and I had been very sick. And so I was back there and with my parents.
And you're an only child, right?
What's that?
Are you an only child?
I have 4. There's 4 siblings. I'm the youngest of 4.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was back in Kansas, and some friends of the family acquaintances, they had asked me to attend a gathering at their house. Hey, you know what? Come They had given me a card, and they were like, just come watch it. We televise it. And
what year was this?
That was October of 17.
Okay.
And so I went, and, I thought, this is really crazy. I hadn't, back in 2007, there wasn't a lot of televised watching church. And, they were talking about how their life had changed, but it was in Tennessee. And I was at a very vulnerable time in my life. I knew God was what was keeping me alive, what was my source. And they had said, it is everything that we had been looking for. The family, everybody is family, community. And so every week, while I was still back in Kansas, they're like, come worship with us on Wednesday and then Saturday. And then they said, well, come down with us. We're going to drive to Tennessee. Come be with us. And
you said this was in 2017 or
2007.
7. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what I thought. I was like, wait, this isn't, that
2007. So I drove down there with them, and it was like everybody was welcoming. It was, you're a part of us. Welcome. You felt like that vulnerability, it had been filled, because here's this beautiful church, and everybody is welcoming and
accepting.
And you felt like I finally found what I was looking for, like this connection. And I didn't join right away then, but I was watching online all the time, and started connecting, and people were very much like, you're our family. And when you would go down there, pretty much.
How often would you go down there? Because you were doing it from Arizona.
Yeah.
And you'd visit how often?
Actually, they wanted you. They had a lot of events. There was events all the time, gatherings and at the church. And they expected you to be a lot of them. They wanted you there. So, but you wanted to be there because it was just, you felt, which they had even said, you're chosen. There's not everybody is chosen to be in Remnant Fellowship. And at the time, there was another dear friend. We joined at the same time. And she was from Arizona, and we both felt like, wow.
We're special.
Yes.
We're chosen.
Yes. And never did you have to worry about where to stay. Their homes were welcoming. Everybody welcomed you. And they always had gatherings when you were there, like, let's get together. And so it really was like a no-brainer that you just feel like, wow, I have really
found my people,
found my church, found people that love me, and I fit in. And then I joined. And
what did it mean to join?
It means that basically you're given like a shepherd, like you have people that are up in the church, like,
almost like a hierarchy.
Yes, you have the leader, and then you have people underneath, and then they sort of monitor. They're given, people from different states, and because
that they're in charge of.
Yes, people from all over the world joined Remnant, and once again, you were like, "This is incredible." got people, and it was always televised, the services on Wednesday and Saturday, the Sabbath.
Was that a public platform that it was televised on? Was anybody able to watch it?
No, it was only for the church members.
Okay.
Yes. And so basically, I felt like it was almost like I had this special gift, that I had this gift that I was chosen. And I didn't realize that I had such a judgment of others. I mean, it was like, remnant kids wouldn't act that way, and the people wouldn't act that way. And
did they lead you to believe that, or was it you were following their example, or did they teach that?
They teach that. Yeah, it was taught, you're in the world, but you're not of the world.
You're special.
You are special. And so it was encouraged to come to every event, and your shepherd, the person that, would sort of make sure you were, because you also did classes, you kept up on, you had classes that people would connect, and you would go through the curriculum, and it kept you involved. But the monitoring was to make sure you were doing that, to make sure, like, if I was flying and I hadn't attended church for a few weeks, I was called out, you haven't been at church. And there were many things that I started to see that I didn't understand, I didn't agree with, like...
Back up for a second.
Yes.
When you first came into this, because I remember you telling me this story, and when you were explaining it to me, from what I remember was,
yes,
when you went there, the draw for you was this exclusivity.
Absolutely.
You were chosen. It was a special place for only the chosen people. And that's how that type of manipulation typically works in this environment, right? That's always how it works.
Yes.
You met Gwen.
I did.
And how did you feel when you were engaging with her for the first time? Did it feel like what you were describing at the time? And also the second part of that question is, was her fixation on body image a huge part of what you saw from the beginning? Did it matter to you? Were you participating in that too?
Absolutely. Because backtracking, Remnant Fellowship first started with Gwen Shamblin starting way down.
Right, which is explain that a little bit. People that don't know.
Way down was, and it was taught in churches. You were able to, like, if you had an eating disorder, if you had any idol, it was, you could escape it. You could overcome it by doing way down. And, it was like,
well, and the stories that go with that were from what I understand from the research I've done on Gwen, was her message was, I'm hearing from God, and instead of your fixation on food, your fixation should be on God, which sounds noble.
Absolutely.
Which is why it's confusing.
It was
and it sounds noble. It's like, well, yeah, you can become obsessive with food, and you think that you really need food just to nourish your body,
right?
Not to obsess over or let it take you over, which it does for so many people, right?
Absolutely.
And they gain weight and they have issues or eating disorders or whatever the issues are. And she came on the scene, and it's funny. I will say this, just the little that I know about her. I do think that originally her intentions were probably noble.
They were absolutely. They were very noble, and then it was almost as though the power and the control just started becoming bigger and bigger. And I felt like, to be at the events, because it was unbelievable.
They were lavish.
They were lavish. I mean, and everybody participated. It was, everybody pitched in. If it was a wedding, I mean, everybody helped, and it was so family oriented. And I was even baptized at Echelon, at Gwen's pool. And it was like,
you felt like you'd arrived.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, you, once again, you felt like I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. You know, my real family, my real friends are these people. They're not all these people out here, you know? And
they also, like you said, guided you to say, you don't need to associate out there.
No.
So how did that work with family?
You know,
with your family, like how
family and
did they say
friends,
you could talk to your family and friends, or they said no?
Oh, I did definitely. However, I mean, my family and friends had no idea. I never shared. There was, because the more and more the questions that I would have, like the authority, like the oldest child was the authority. And everything else down the way, you just obeyed, whether they were not good people or didn't act right. If you obey enough, they will.
What do you mean by the oldest sibling?
Like, say you have mother, daughter, I mean, this husband and wife, and then if you have siblings,
okay.
Well, you know, the authority is the husband.
Right.
And then the wife, you know, and so forth. They go down the line. So everybody pretty much obeys the authority in age.
Got it.
And a lot of times, you know, I questioned a lot, and I was in trouble all the time.
So because you were squeaking out a little bit. You were like, what about this? What does that mean?
Always was like, stop questioning, follow the authority, follow and quit trying to question. Because
what types of things would you question?
Well, for instance, you know, you could not, like, okay, if, say, my parents were both dying at the time, you were not supposed to go to their funeral. Or you were not supposed to go to a wedding or a funeral of anyone that's not of Remnant.
Did they explain?
Yes.
What was their reasoning?
You agree, if you attend, you agree with the way they're living their life or their church.
You're basically, you're in agreement with the outside world. Absolutely. And how they behave with their funerals, with their ceremonies.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a wedding or a funeral or whatever it is, which does not agree with Remnants.
No.
So if you go, you're condoning that and saying, I agree.
Right. And
okay,
I knew people that, you know, their parents or someone passed and they didn't go. Wow. They stood outside and they helped, and then they didn't go. And I said, absolutely not. I will go to my parents' funeral.
So what happened when that happened? Did they not know? Did they find these things out?
Yeah, I did tell them, you know, I'm going. You know, when it was frowned upon, it was almost like there was a scorebook, you know, and
too many marks and you're in trouble.
Yes, it was. And so I was always in trouble because I questioned, why is this? Why is that? And it was very much appearance oriented, you know, and, you know, because everything was televised for everyone to see.
Even new people coming in, they wanted to paint a good picture.
Absolutely.
To get more people in.
Yes. And it was very much, you know, I think I had shared with you that I had been there for an event and my arms were thin. And one of the leaders, you know, saw before we started that it was going to be televised and had me come to the back. And they're like, no, we got to put something on.
That's going to make us look bad.
So I had to put a shawl on, you know, so I wouldn't be noticed. And it was So
did you question that? Those were the types of things you were questioning?
Absolutely.
Would you say these things or just kind of pack them in and say?
Oh no, you don't retaliate anything. You just okay.
You just obey.
Right. And
especially when you're there.
Yeah. And so there was such a double edge. There was love, but if you disagree or you question, it's I was suspended. I was suspended because my Instagram and my Facebook, they're monitored. They were monitored. So I was liking.
And you knew that?
Yeah. I didn't know at the time until I got suspended because I was liking too many people that had swimming suits and fitness people, because you're not supposed to look at your body. You're not supposed to love your body. Your body is your temple, but God's temple, but you're not supposed to just look in the mirror all the time. And,
in vain. They saw it as vain.
Right. So, I was suspended and I had.
What did it mean to be suspended?
I basically was on a probation period until
considering whether they'd even have you stay.
Until I stopped doing what
those
I was
behaviors.
Doing. Mm-hmm. And I had to write and grovel to get back in.
What made you want to write and grovel to get back in?
Because when you are in something like that, you have such mind control of fitting in when you're not, even though it was like a double-edged sword. It was this is so controlling, but yet when you're not in it,
you feel left out.
You're totally, because you're not of the world anymore. You're just
you're lost.
Yeah, you're lost.
You feel very lost.
Yeah, it was lost. And so I remember, okay, I won't do any of that anymore. And I also felt pretty special because one of the leaders under Gwen, he would be in communication with me once a week and monitor how my health was doing. And I was special because not a lot of people had.
You were getting special attention.
I was special attention. Mm-hmm. So I really felt special. But it was also, as I was there longer, I realized it was an arrogance. It was an arrogance because I was judging everyone else by Remnant. And it did not feel good. I mean, it was I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, I'm there.
So you were really torn.
I was so torn.
In the midst of the whole thing.
Mentally.
Do you think others felt the same at the same time?
Absolutely.
Did you have communication with people about this?
One of the girls that she joined when I did, her and I were very close. And
You questioned it together.
We both did. And we're just
does this seem right to you? Because this doesn't feel good?
Yeah. And it was, once again, if I didn't attend so many functions or I didn't do so many classes, I wasn't being a part of the church. I wasn't doing my part for the kingdom, and it was, what was hard is that many people leave their careers, they
move there.
Yes. And I don't know how many times, give up your career.
So, okay, I want to stop you for a second because I know there was something telling you, don't do that.
Absolutely. It was totally
And you
God.
listened. I have goosebumps.
Totally God
I was going to say, you knew that was not what you needed to do or were supposed to do.
So many. I mean, the friends, you can move here. Leadership was give it all up for God and the kingdom. Be with the saints. We were saints. That's what we were called, saints. And it was I can't give up my career. And I was very selfish. It was, you're selfish. You are not giving up for God.
So you're not really in it.
No, because And I had pretty much had enough. So I left.
What year was that?
I left in, it was right when because I left permanently in I think it was like 17. I tried to leave.
Explain that. Talk about it.
I said, I'm done. I wrote.
What was the final straw that made you do that?
I just felt like I wasn't able to live up. I wasn't going to move there. I didn't agree with not going to funerals and weddings. And if someone is abusive, even in their authority, if they're authority, I'm not listening, and I seen it. And it was like, but yet if you love them enough and you serve them enough, they will change. Your family, your life will be so much better. I didn't agree with all that. And I was like, you know what? I've got to be done. And so I wrote my letter and I left, and I was dead.
Do you have to give them written?
Mm-hmm. And I was pretty much dead.
Explain that. Like, what does that mean?
Even though, I had all these people that love me, I was with them all the time. I stayed in their homes. They were, close. They were very close to me, and no communication.
They just cut you off.
You're done. And it was like, and no one knew. No friends, no family. They just knew that I was looking for another church here. Because
this is fascinating because you literally did not share this with your family.
No.
Or friends. Okay, no. So explain that. Because there's reasons that you didn't.
No, it was, I was like, they thought I was in a great church. They seen the pictures. They seen the lavish. It was incredible. Why would you leave that? And then I felt even worse.
Did they know what it was called? Did they know anything about it?
Remnant.
But they didn't realize that it was what it was.
No.
Because at the time, it wasn't being called out.
No.
Was it? When did it start getting called out?
When I actually, when I'd be down there, because I was down there quite a bit, people would be like, that's a weird church. If you would hear someone talk about the Remnant Fellowship, those people were like, weird.
That's weird.
They homeschool all their kids. They marry within, and they start very young, building the kingdom. And so I left and kept the secret, didn't really tell anybody. And I tried going back to various churches. I could not do it.
But talk about what they say to you when you leave. What happens to you when you leave?
Pretty much.
Because they threaten you.
Yeah.
Because in most of these cases, in any sort of cult-like behavior, they say they're the only ones that will lead you to salvation.
Absolutely.
Which we all know that's a bunch of BS.
Yes.
And that's what they tell you. So what do they threaten you with? If you leave, then this will happen to you. What did they say to you?
Your life is cursed. Your life will be cursed. If you leave, your life is cursed. And so it was very huge. And it was like, I had been there so long. Everything had been ingrained. And so I tried going back to a few of the churches that I had gone, and I was judging like I could not accept.
Wow.
I judged everything. And I even was counseled with one of the pastors at a few different churches because I told them, and they're like, oh my God, you're in a cult.
What did you say when they said that?
I said, basically, I had been in Remnant Fellowship, and basically, we followed certain doctrine, and the authority figures, food control. But, the thing, backtrack a little bit, you'd have these lavish events. And food.
Explain them. Describe it so people can get a visual. What did it look like to go to an event?
And the people in Remnant, which why I felt very like chosen,
Special.
very smart. I mean,
Educated.
and musicians and doctors and I mean high
Achieving people.
Absolutely. And they were there. And so the food, everything was lavish. I mean, everything was black tie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you just felt like, I hit the jackpot.
Kings and queens.
Absolutely. And everybody come from all over the world to be there, to be a part of it. And you just felt special if you got a picture with some of the leadership. And even though, there were leaders that you just felt like very judged. It was almost
Constantly.
like clicks. It was like, you're good, you're not good, and so it was like trying to fit in, like
Within a hierarchy.
Absolutely. And so, but it is interesting because, in my life, it seems though I followed that because it was like trying to fit in my whole life. And here I am in a church.
A pattern.
Trying to fit in. And so when I left, it was the hardest, I think it was like a year. It's really almost a blur because I was just lost. I was so lost.
And you couldn't even share with anybody.
No, except
what you'd been through or what you were experiencing or how you were feeling or what you were thinking about it all.
Yeah. And even like I said, one of my friends she had left too.
Had you thought about sharing this at that time? Because you weren't ready to share yet.
No, because I still...
You were unsure.
It was like I was protecting them. I still was protecting them.
You still felt connected or obligated.
Absolutely. And I mean, I tried so hard to reprogram that.
So it was for them. You were protecting them. It had nothing to do with you and your embarrassment. It was, you were like, oh, but I need to protect them. I still respect them enough to protect them.
Absolutely. Even though I was pretty much cut off, your family and then your history. Wow. Yeah. It's like.
And even still, you're trying to protect them.
Absolutely.
So much mind control.
It was brain control. And nobody knew it.
Right.
No family, no friends, even my boyfriend at the time. I mean, he knew I was in a church and I'd go down there for events, but no idea.
Wow.
Because
you kept it close.
Talk bad. No. And so pretty much I was counseled, and I pretty much just stopped going to the church. Churches. I tried going back to the churches that I had been. I couldn't do it. It was like, I can't.
I don't like this.
I don't like what they're doing. And it was so difficult because I had been programmed. I was programmed to believe kids should act this way. And
talk about the kid stuff, because that's a huge piece of it. How they treat children. Talk about that. That's a big part of it.
When I first joined or had gone to an event, the first big event, I know they were talking about, and this has been all over the news and in TV series and stuff.
Sure.
But the Smiths, they had been put in prison for, killing their children.
Explain what happened for people that don't know.
Yeah. It basically, they had, it was how Gwen was teaching how to discipline your children. And it was very hush. I mean, it wasn't talked about. It was the Smiths have been unjustly charged. They had been unjustly charged with abusing their children, abusing their sons, which, passed.
Well, and what had really happened?
Basically,
what do you know really
what
happened?
I know to happen is they pretty much abused them to where the physical abuse was so bad, they died.
Wow.
And
to get them to behave.
Yeah.
To get them to conform.
To conform. And, you know, I was like, oh my God, these poor innocent people. Because that's all I knew.
You didn't know the details of what really was going on.
No.
Because this was behind closed doors, how these people were disciplining their children.
Absolutely.
And you weren't witness to any of it.
No. But
this was happening across families in Remnant. Yeah. All the children, is that why all the children were so well behaved? Because they were beaten so much that they would?
It was like, and that was the hardest part, because these kids, once again, smart. And I mean, they were homeschooled and smart, and they had summer camps, and I'd go down there, and these kids were all just so well behaved, and they were loving God,
and polite.
And you're just like, what's bad about this? This is awesome,
right?
You know, kids in the real world, they're
being human,
awful. These kids are, and so they.
Yikes.
I mean, once again, very smart. So it was
hard to see any negativity because you weren't witnessing what was actually going on.
No, but I know, you know, it was like, how can your marriage be that good all of a sudden? You know, if you just keep obeying a husband that, you know, goes out every night or whatever.
So you were seeing this in marriages too?
Yeah. And it was like, but if you love him enough, you'll see the change, and you'll see him start to change. And so when I had left, that's what I was missing. I was missing seeing the kids on the plane behave, you know, seeing kids that are at a restaurant sit and be polite. And it was like, I gotta go back. I can't handle this.
Were children basically silent?
You know, you wouldn't know, because, I mean, when you were at gatherings and everything or functions, these kids were...
They seemed like normal children to you.
And we'd have dances, everybody be dance and have great times. But it was the principles that Gwen and the leadership had. Basically, this is what you follow, you know, the line of authority, and God is everything, but your parents are your authorities and your older siblings down the way. And so it just seemed like that's the way it should be, you know? But I started thinking, you know what? Nobody ever marries outside of church. And if you marry, because one of my dear friends that I became really close with there, you know, she married a man outside of the church, and
she was excommunicated. He joined. That's the only way that could have happened.
He joined. Yeah, he joined, because you want your spouse to be on board. Yeah, it's rare if you have a spouse that's not in Remnant.
Oh, that actually happens though?
Oh yeah, but
how does that work?
Basically, like, they join single, and they find somebody, like, say, if I would have married my boyfriend, he would have had to join. So
I'm saying, so you don't. It's not rare. It doesn't happen. You're not in a marriage outside of Remnant. Period.
No. Yeah, and I mean, so once again, you just felt like this is a great everything.
Felt like it was the right.
Here.
You thought it was a great thing.
Everything. I mean, and it just so I had to beg to get back in. And I had to...
What did that look like? What did you have to do?
I had to attend events. I had to be online on the classes. I had to, watch all of what I would like on any of my social media. And so it was like I had to go down there and have a meeting to be accepted back in.
And it was your shepherd that is the one that decided whether you could be allowed back in?
And it was leadership. They had to vote or decide if it... they'll let you know. They'll let you know. And, as I had been in there long enough, and I was like, what kind of church you have to be selected to be in?
Back in and come back in.
Those were the questions. And it was like, but then it was like, but I'm special.
Well, it was again, I think it was the exclusivity. They make you feel like you're chosen, you're the special one. So if we pick you, you are lucky.
Yes. Yeah.
And you want to feel lucky.
Oh, absolutely. But the longer, so it took, backtracking a little bit, it was probably maybe a month or two before I was accepted back in. And, I saved emails. I still have the emails from.
Why do you think you did that then?
It is interesting that I kept those emails. And it was almost like when I would read the emails, it was almost like it was a form of abuse, because it was like I'm reading how I'm not doing this and I'm not
good enough.
It was almost like how I had felt most of my life. I'm never good enough. I'm never good enough. And that's what I felt like, So
you were seeking acceptance desperately.
Absolutely. And so I got back in and, go to the events and all that. But I really was like, oh geez, I'm not agreeing again.
Still doesn't feel right.
Well, what I saw was, people, it was developed with the food. The food was the center, and the judgment of people that had gained weight, like if people would gain weight or lose weight, there was judgment, huge judgment on these people. And it was like,
that rubbed you wrong.
Oh, well, yeah. And even myself being too thin, I was judged. You got to get that weight up, and the people that were over, you got to lose that weight. You got to lose the weight. So what I saw was other coping mechanisms.
Like
drinking, or diet soda out the wazoo, and you're just like, you're not eating, but you have cases of diet soda and wine and drink. And, so you'd have these lavish events and beautiful cakes and all that. Nobody'd eat. It'd be like little
bite-sized pieces of things.
So I saw that and I was like, well, okay, well, that's definitely, we're making food not the issue. Food is not God. That's exactly what's been taught. And if you've had food issues or eating issues or whatever, well, this is perfect. Once again, it's like, okay, I feel at home now again.
They want to help me with this.
I feel at home.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but there was so much judgment of some of the leadership that were leaders, just rude and mean and condescending.
To everyone, or just the people they didn't hold high?
Actually, if you're in the group, if you're in this little group, then you're not judged as much. But there's people that are still in the church today that are still, because I have people that I am connected with that still are in the church. And I have the friend that left as well. She has friends that are still connected. And the same people that are very judgmental, but yet are supposed to be leading the church. And I just felt like more judgment. When I got back in, then I felt even worse, like, oh my God, I made a mistake. I got back in and I still don't feel like I should be here. So I couldn't go back to a regular church, and I didn't want to be back there.
What a feeling of being
it was
without country.
Right. And I just saw so much fake. You know, it was like you're not being honest, you know. Everything's not always perfect. I tried to get Nashville overnights all the time to see friends.
Because you're a flight attendant.
Yeah. So somebody would come and pick me up, or they'd come into Nashville because, you know, Franklin's 30 minutes, not far. And so we'd have the best evening, and it felt like family. Once again, they would make time to want to come be with a saint.
So they felt like real friends.
Absolutely, saints in town, and, you know. And so, you know, everybody's happy for Gwen getting married and divorcing her husband. And it was like, okay, well, then I need to be happy too, even though I was like, wait, divorce isn't accepted. But just didn't talk about it. Just don't talk about it. And
what year was that? Do you remember?
That was actually, 2000? See, I left in 19. It might have been around 17 or 17. I'm not sure, but I know I left in 19, and then
you left for good in 19.
I left for good in August of 2019.
So go to that, get to what happened. You go back, and you're still seeing more things that you're like, this doesn't make sense. She's going against what she's preaching. Again, say as I say, not as I do.
Absolutely.
And you're confused by it, but yet you're like, okay, but still, I don't know how to be over there, so I'm going to be here, even though this doesn't feel good.
Right. And, you know, I always felt like I was never right. I never was good enough. Like, I wouldn't give up my career. I wouldn't move to Tennessee. I didn't believe in not going to a wedding or a funeral. And it was a slash, you know? It was like, not obey. Why are you in the church if you're not going to obey? Obey. And it was so, in my head, it was like, it was a self-fulfilling prophecy of how I have felt all my life. Never good enough, never fitting in.
Do you feel like, not just Remnant, but in these situations generally, that they prey on people that are in that mindset, have that baggage?
Absolutely. Vulnerability, where people are looking for
acceptance,
looking for, like, struggle with family issues or addictions, and this is the place to go. I mean, it's like freedom. You felt so welcome. But backtrack a little bit is I had been in the 12 steps, you know, that was gone. You don't attend anything. You do not.
Were you afraid?
Oh, absolutely.
To not be part of that?
Absolutely. It was like,
you're like, wait a minute, I need that.
This is how you live life. This is how all addictions are taken care of. The authority, Gwen, and...
Was it God or was it the authority? How did they present that information to you?
Gwen was... Everybody felt like Gwen was a prophet.
Right.
Gwen was the prophet. And even though we're believing in God, but yet it was Gwen. Gwen was, it was
whatever she said is what went.
Gwen had that gift. And
nobody else did.
No. So, and then she assigned, down the line, the special. So I had to stop going to any meetings, no therapy, nothing. You did not want to be caught like, I went to a meeting.
Did you struggle with not going to meetings?
I had been I had enough of the 12 steps in my life where I didn't feel like I was, gonna relapse or anything else. But it was almost like that part of my life is done. This is my new part of my life. So I didn't need any therapy. I have it all here.
Did you really feel that was the case there? Were you telling, or were you pretending?
In the beginning, I was like, this is it. I wouldn't need a thing. But then as you're there and you see more people, like, wait, they might have their weight under control, but I see a lot of crazy behavior.
A lot of other abuse going on.
Absolutely. So it was like, okay, well, just don't talk about it. Don't talk about it.
Just pretend like it's not your business.
Well, and you didn't want to bring it up to leadership because you weren't going to be in trouble because you had a shepherd that was assigned to you, and if you were having issues, you talk to them. You don't need to go.
They're
to
like
a
your
meeting.
bishop.
Yes, and so it was like, okay, everything had to go that was. So what was is no longer. This is your life. And I felt all the time like I was never going to live up to, I'm not moving. I'm not. And I felt like I was a disappointment. Like I'm disappointing everybody because I'm not obeying. What am I doing in the church if I'm not going to obey it? I came back to be a part of it again, and
yeah, you're still not behaving because you still don't like what's going on.
No, and felt like, because many times, if you would just obey, if you would just listen and don't question. So pretty much when I did go back, I just struggled. I tried really hard to fit in and be a part of, but
and just accept what was happening, even though it rubbed you wrong.
Yeah. And once again, I never felt like I was ever going to fit into the group, to be included. And
do you think that that's really what was happening, or do you think that was just your Tammy voice getting to you? Do you think it was both?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. There were... if you got to attend a party at Gwen's or at one of the leaderships or, in their beautiful homes, that was cool. You were in.
Did you get those experiences?
I did. And some, but I knew all those that didn't get to be there. And I'm like, so they're not good enough. Mm-hmm. So they're not good enough to be here, but I'm here. And, so many times I question myself. You're making that stuff up in your head, quit questioning, So it was a battle all the time, this battle.
Yeah.
And so fine.
You were also talking about the rules too.
Yeah. And, like I said, backtrack. I saw people lose weight. I did, but my God, grown men, they'd eat a little McDonald's hamburger. I'd be like, okay, that's the anorexic behavior, but that's how you lost weight. But you had all this diet soda and all this. So I saw stuff and I was like, wait, it's one control for another,
one vice for another.
Right. And so many times, like I said, I questioned myself. It's like, stop questioning. This is fine. You're here again. They accepted you back in. Be happy you're back in. And it was very difficult to be back. So in August of 2019, I went down to Remnant for the week, actually, to stay with different people. And it was my birthday week, and I was there, and I just felt like I can't do this anymore. I felt like I was forcing myself. Just
going against yourself.
Yeah, it was God. I mean, I feel God was, I'm going to cry. God, I feel he's the one that was talking this whole time. He's the one that was like, do not move. Do not give up your career. You are good enough. Because it was, when I left and wrote, I was like, and I had stayed with my friend that had ultimately left as well. And I told her, I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I tried again. And I wrote, and what was the hardest is that I was with saints all week. We were friends. We had been 12 years. And when I wrote my letter that I was going to leave the church, I was done. Everybody that loved me, that I was family, you're history. You're
like you
done.
said, it was like you were dead to them.
You're dead. And so it was like, okay, it was 12 years of loss. You see these little kids and everything, and you're a part of it, and then you're just done. No communication.
You're totally
cut off. And so, but I know how hard it was to write that letter and be done. I felt like God had pulled me out of hell. I mean, he had been talking the whole time of...
You finally were listening.
Yes, and it was like... to this day, I mean, I know that with all my heart, there is no doubt that God had been with me the whole time. Every time I questioned something, it was God. Like, listen to me. Listen to me.
This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right.
This human is not me. It's someone that is in authority. It's not me. And
right.
So it was difficult trying to find my way, after.
Exactly. Talk about what happened after you left.
After I really just submersed myself in work. I just was like.
You didn't know where else to be.
No, I submersed myself in work. And.
Did you tell anybody at that time?
No, only, the person that had left at the same, pretty much. But it was pretty much, people started saying, well, are you still in that church? No, I wanted to be in a church. I just decided to be in a church close to home. It was too difficult because people would question, why are you in a church in Nashville? It's just the best church. I could watch, televise. It's the best church. And so people thought I was happy. Hey, it's great. Look at those beautiful pictures and everything. Yeah, why wouldn't you want to? So I had to find my way again. And I could say I've been to churches, and I just feel like God has just consumed me even more.
I was going to say, how was your relationship with God when you left?
Oh, it was almost like I felt like I had been out of prison because I didn't have to answer. I didn't have somebody monitoring my media. And
your every move, it sounds like.
If I was taking classes or if I was, coming to events or whatever. And it, talking about it, it's almost like, thinking was, in my head, it was like anybody that would listen going, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And it was like, oh, yeah, it was that bad.
Yeah.
But, I do feel that God pulled me out at the right time because, later, Gwen had passed. Mm-hmm. But I was seeing, people were making movies and people talking about...
It was coming out.
It was coming out and about the abuse. And the leaders, that had passed, there were a few of them I was very close to. And it was like, oh my gosh, my heart.
Yeah, how did you feel?
Out.
Yeah.
My heart went out to, and it's weird because it wasn't Gwen that I was sad about that had passed, because what I saw, how I saw her change, it was sad that, a mother and grandmother and wife, but it was the other people that I had known and, I had great relationships with. Because, I didn't have that close a relationship with Gwen, of course. And, when you got to see Gwen or be with Gwen, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But it was the others that I would have more communication with and
they were part of your life.
Be with them. And that was the sadness. But, as time goes on, the more and more I have never felt as close to God as I do, because there isn't always a turmoil in my head of, am I doing something wrong? Am I taking the classes? Am I going to go to an event? Have I gained weight? Have I lost weight? Am I wearing my clothes wrong? I felt like
free.
There was that. It was a freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And I see people still in it, and I see it falling apart. Mm-hmm. I see the church falling apart, and I see the daughter that is extremely sick. And with anorexia, extremely sick. And, I'm like, she's leadership of the church, but she's never been able to grieve. She has never grieved the loss of her husband, her mother, and nothing. You move on, but yet what's hard, it's like, if you love this person, get help.
Right.
And so I really try to not get involved, because I'm still friends with some of the people.
It's hard not to watch.
But we don't communicate.
No.
There's a few that like will connect or like something, but no, we have no contact as far as, what are you doing in life? How's your life? Nothing. No. But it was, it really is amazing how God can be so powerful and want to be all. To really be all. And I just feel like I have been so blessed, because I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't, everything that I actually also, when you are a part of a cult, which would never be called a cult, when you were a part of that, you're pretty much numbed everything else. I mean, because like I said,
you're so lost
I
in
was
it.
always judging. I mean, I was judging everybody's actions by what Remnant did. Every person's actions was a judgment if it wasn't what I learned and what had been programmed in me from Remnant. And it was, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, you were so judgmental and critical of everyone, including yourself. But that's what I knew, because I'm chosen and I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. And I had been told that. And this last time they had, your life will be cursed.
You talked to me about that a little bit, because you said,
yes,
when you did really leave, you thought, oh my gosh, it's really happening.
Yeah,
I am cursed. You were believing it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because there's so many things that had happened that were just awful. And I even shared that with someone that, the person that had left too. And I said, it can really just
Mess
get in
with
your
you.
head and go, oh my gosh.
You believe it.
This is happening.
It's
My
this-
life is
yeah.
cursed.
Yeah.
Because
Oh my
and it's like,
gosh.
no, absolutely not. No, because those people that told you that are not somebody that I'd want to be like.
Right.
So I just feel so grateful that I have a relationship with God that I never had, because I was numb.
The thing that's so beautiful, Tammy, is, and I've said this to you before, is that having gone through and lived through something like that, you still love and trust
Yeah.
in what you know is your God,
Yeah.
and that it has nothing to do with anyone outside of you and your own relationship.
No. Yeah.
And you have all you need within you
Yeah.
in your connection, period. And so many people, I think, not that I've talked to several of them, but you hear, they lose faith and they think if God can make people behave this way, which that's not what's happening.
Right.
It's their egos that are doing this.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with God.
No.
And these are choices that they are making in spite of it all. And you can still love and trust that voice within that we all have.
Absolutely.
Our intuition is God talking to you. It's us it's our higher selves communicating directly with us.
Yeah.
And we can trust that. And we don't need anything outside of us to direct that. And the fact that you can have such strong faith in that after that kind of experience is beautiful. And that's the one thing when I shared with you my experience when I went to Colorado City and was boots on the ground in that home, and just seeing the wrath and the effects that these people had on other people.
Yeah.
It's tremendous. And so many of those people are in so much pain, having left because they don't know what to do. They're lost because they believe for so long that these people that have been brainwashing them, what they say is their only salvation. And so they think, oh my gosh, I'm doomed.
Absolutely.
You feel doomed.
When you shared that, it was like, I get it. I mean, my head was like, because I get it. What they lived, it's a program. It's a programming. And, you think, well, how could anybody really be programmed? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially those that are bred into it.
Yes.
I mean, they don't even know anything outside of it, period. No. So the children that are brought into it from birth, they know nothing different. So talk about being brainwashed. They don't know anything else. They're not even allowed to know anything else.
No.
So how on earth would they ever know that there's other things to know and experience, period? They can't.
Yeah. And that's the sad part, is they don't know. what they don't know.
Unless,
that's what they live.
on the same token, though, we are all light.
Yes.
We are all part of God. We are all connected. And so we have that in us, period, regardless of what's going on. So people that are getting information and saying something doesn't feel right about that, even though I've only known this, listen to it. What is coming to you inside privately is yours. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah.
Because it's the real thing.
And absolutely. And I think that, Tammy, I think that's why I am in love with God even more, because I believe that voice was just so strong for 12 years. That's why I was always in trouble because it was God going, listen to me, listen. I'm talking to you.
Do you feel this?
Yes.
I'm poking you.
Yes. When humans are going, stop it. But it was like God going, I am here.
Yeah.
So,
if you could tell people listening,
I
watched the documentary on the Remnant Fellowship, and I do recommend people watch it because it's very eye-opening to so many things.
Yes.
There's also documentaries that have been done on the FLDS, the Mormon situation that happened as well. But I encourage you to watch it because it gives you awareness to things that you may not know is going on, first of all. Second of all, it makes you realize that, and one of the people that were speaking on the one that I watched for Remnant, this really struck a chord with me. And I was telling my husband this earlier when I watched it, and I said, he said, we teach our children about drugs and alcohol and stranger danger and sex and all the things that you got to be careful and make smart choices around.
Yes.
We don't typically think, I need to warn them about cult lifestyle behaviors that are real. And they think that it's pure. And they think that it is of God. And they think that I need to listen to this person because they're a prophet or they're whatever they claim to be. You know in yourself what is and what is not. And you have got to teach your children to listen to that, their inner voice.
Absolutely. And that is so true because, and I've talked about this before, is when you are vulnerable, when whatever's going on, if you've had illnesses or addictions or whatever, family life or whatever, that is when it becomes easy to go, here it is, and run to that. And I would encourage anyone that is going through life changes, depression, illness, addictions, to definitely talk to people about what is being offered, because no one questioned what I was doing because
you weren't telling them.
I was not. And it was just filling up that void that I felt
unworthy.
Absolutely.
Unloved,
unworthy. But I see so many people lost, and a cult will pull you in quicker where that lost feeling goes away.
Right.
It's like,
acceptance.
I wasn't lost at all. This is what I was supposed to be doing. And so
what is your advice?
Open up, talk to people about, hey, I just started with this new group, or have you heard about this? Because to this day, many people have no idea that I was in a cult. They know that I left the church there, but it's not like after I said I left to be closer to home and not have to, go to events down there or anything. Nobody questioned it because I didn't make it a big deal. It was like,
you weren't
just
telling them the
stop
whole
talking.
story.
Right. Just don't talk about it. It will go away. It's history. It'll go away. But if I can recommend to anyone, whatever addiction, whatever pain, whatever loss, you're trying to fill that void, and talk to people. Talk and talk and talk.
The people close to you in your life.
Absolutely.
That you trust and know love you.
Yes. And ask them, hey, what do you think of this? Because I never did that. I never asked anybody, "What have you heard of that? What do you think of that?" No, because it was just what was going to make me feel better and be better. Mm-hmm. And my family, why could they not be happy? They're like, Tammy's in a great church. Yeah, she's in a great church. She's got great people. And
people have no idea.
No idea. No, you have to open up, talk.
That's great advice. And I think that's so true for anybody because if this reaches people that are in a situation where they're feeling tendencies like that little voice is saying, hey, you does this feel right to you? Like, I don't know about this. And
I know.
Listen to that voice first and start questioning and sharing, like Tammy said, because, this journey of life is hard and we can get tricked and we can fall into places that we don't need to be.
Yes.
So that's the best advice is talk, share, express what's going on with you. There's so many, this happens so often. And it's not always in the form of a church.
No.
It's in the form of lots of things.
Yeah.
So pay attention. And if something doesn't feel right, then it's not. Mm-hmm. So for me, that is what I would express to my children. Mm-hmm. If this doesn't feel right to you inside, listen to that voice because it's telling you that for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like I said, you saw that firsthand, what these people lived. And then me telling you, what I had shared with you, it can happen that fast. Talk, open up, and, it can be embarrassing. Like, I'm really going through this hard time, and this is something I'm thinking about doing, or it sounds wonderful. It's communication, because you don't have to fall into those traps and feel like you can't get out.
Right.
Because once you're in, your
hard.
mind is hard. It's hard, and it's a lot of suffering that you don't have to go through.
Right.
Yeah.
Tammy, I can't tell you how, I don't like using the word proud because I'm not your mom, and but I as your friend and as your sister, I'm really impressed, and I'm proud of you for sharing this. And I know it's not easy to talk about. I know it's very deeply emotional and opens up wounds that are fresh. Yeah. And I know that people need to hear this. It's very important. And I'm grateful to you.
Thank you.
This makes me want to cry. I'm grateful to you that you have the courage to share it.
Absolutely. Because
I'm grateful.
So many times it was like, it's over. You're done. Stop talking. Don't bring it up. It's history. But it's not that easy. It really is.
No, it's extremely real in your experience.
It is. It's extremely real.
So that's why I'm just grateful that you can share this, because there are people out there that are suffering with similar situations and need to hear this, that it's okay, that you can get out.
Absolutely.
You don't have to stay there.
Not cursed.
No, and you are okay, and you are still loved.
Yes.
And nothing bad's going to happen to you for choosing you.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And God.
Yeah.
True God, not false.
Well, the God within.
Yes, the God that talks to us.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's the God within. That's us.
Yeah.
Our connection, our own private, personal connection.
Right.
So thank you for sharing. I've been, it's funny. I told you when I messaged you and I said, it's time. I really truly was nudged. It was like, it's time. And that's why I said, hey, do you want to, are you ready?
Yeah, I know. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because, it's hard, but yet it has to come out to help others that do not have to do it, do not have to get sucked in.
Can avoid this.
Yes. Yeah.
You need to write a book, Tammy.
Thank you.
You do. It's an incredible story, and it will impact the tribe that you're meant to impact, and that's part of your purpose here, to do that for people. So you saying this out loud is part of that. Keep going with it, because it will have impact and help people, which is what we're all here to do, is help and serve each other.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
And thank you for inviting me on.
Oh my gosh.
I feel honored. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. You're a gift in my life, and I'm grateful to know you and to love you.
And I believe there were no mistakes when we met.
No, never.
Not at all.
I know. Plus, you can't go wrong with two Tammys.
No. No, big Tammy, little Tammy.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you all so much for listening. I can't say this enough, that it takes a lot of courage to share and be that candid and honest about an experience like this. And I know there are people that will hear this that need to share this with others, and I encourage you to do that so they can find the help that they need, that they can avoid harmful and unpleasant experiences like this. So please share. This is on YouTube as well. So please subscribe to the channel, because these are the types of messages we want to get out to the world, to help people, to serve people. So we appreciate that. And comments. If you have comments for Tammy, please leave them in the comments. She'd be happy to answer and help. That's what she's here to do.
Absolutely.
So you can also find additional information and things for Tammy Tuesday, which is all about life, love, and purpose, on my website at tammytuesday.com, or follow us on our social channels at Tammy Tuesday Life on Instagram and Facebook. Always leaving you with love and light. And remember, life, love, and purpose, it all begins with you.